Hello and welcome to Setup Phase and back to the realm of Ulos. Today we will be continuing our adventure with adventure number 4, The Eye of Ulos. I have already set up the map with 4 random encounters and an XP at each of the 5 locations. We have 2 bonus play limit from last adventure. We also have a combat dice limit of 5. I need to set up the brawler backstory, which will be at location B, and place the reminder. And I think we're ready to begin. After a long night in Undercity purging an outbreak of vampirism, you return with Commander Zalek and find the capital in a state of unrest. An explosion shakes Terran's arena and you hear screams spreading through the streets. While your commander fears a Dragul assault, you know a different group is behind this violence. Surely the Starlit Dora are carrying out their plot to attack Sobek. Suddenly, a second boom shakes the city. Streaks of purple energy crackle in the sky, opening an interplanar rift to the strange heavens and the red moons of another world. Your commander turns to you. No rift can form without an object from another plane, he says. Some foe or fool has opened the king's Dorgulium chamber and left its treasures exposed. You watch as the rift expands downward, slowly approaching Sobek Palace. We have much to do, says Alec grimly. First to the arena, and then we seal the rift. He charges off, expecting you to follow him. To your right lies the Temple of Ulos, looking peaceful in the morning light. You remember the temple was circled heavily on the Starlit Doors map back in Undercity. Place your party marker at location A. If there's no XP at this location, there is. Otherwise, collect the XP from this location and continue reading. Before you leave, you are greeted by Minthrock, the Minotaur gamekeeper, and his partner Shortep, who are arriving to work at the King's Guard menagerie. They both look up in awe at the rift in the sky. You know, Minthrock says to his mate, I've been reading up on prophecies since the invasion started. Listen to this. Ye shall know my time is nigh when red moons float through Sobek's sky. You can get more specific than that. I don't know, says Shortap, scratching his head. Could mean anything, really. While the Minotaurs debate ancient verse, you find an old pry iron leaning on the wall of Mintrock's shop and decide it might come in handy. Reveal Discovery Card 89, which is the pry iron. Shuffle the familiar deck and reveal 3 cards. Place them face up next to the adventure map to create a market. While at location A, you may buy cards in this market for their price. If your king's favor is 2 or higher, the price of each card at this market is decreased by 2 gold. If you buy a familiar, add its card to one of the player's hands and add the matching familiar die to the dice pack. But unfortunately, we have no gold for the moment, and our king's favor is only 1. If you have the title Starlit Hope, we do not, we only have Starlit Devil. We can now buy a familiar from Mintrock and Shortep, use an item, or move to another location. Let's use the pry iron. You show Mintrock the pry iron. He doesn't seem too impressed. You're welcome to keep it. Might help you build some muscle. Each player add 1 stamina to your constitution attribute row, ignoring the usual limit. And we can now rest, use another item, or move to another location. There's no reason for us to rest. Let's move to another location. Let's move to location B, Terran's Arena. On the way, we will encounter number 2. If you have any of the titles, Lady Emilia's Sorrow, Lady Emilia's Secret, Cornia's Spire, or Secret Corpse. We have Lady Emilia's Sorrow. If you have the title Lady Amelia's Secret, if you have either of the titles Corinna's Spire or Secret Corpse. We have neither of them. Lady Amelia Dundum, royal councilwoman, walks in the center of an otherwise quiet street. Her eyes are unfocused, her face hangs heavy with the sorrow and fear. She must have received word that a dot died in the catacombs last night. You do not know if you were named as the executioner. The councilwoman is without guard, distraught and alone in those dangerous streets. It is not clear how she might react if she recognizes you as her daughter's killer. Maybe it would be better for you if she didn't make it home. Offer to escort Lady Amelia home, let her wander off and meet her fate. Let's offer to escort her home. We killed her daughter, we might as well get her home safely. This will be a constitution and charisma check. You offer to escort Lady Amelia home. She looks at you like you might be telling a joke. Of course, she doesn't want to go home. You'll have to convince her. If your king's favor is 3 or higher, it's only 1. We need to do the skill check Speechcraft too. The dice limit for Speechcraft 2 is 6. Let's spend 1 charisma for a purple die. And maybe 1 constitution and 1 wisdom. Constitution gives us a green die and the wisdom a white die. The remaining 3 will be drawn at random. And let's roll them. We have a 6 white, which is perfect here. We have a 4. And we can also place the green too. We only need the purple dice. Okay, so here's what I've come up with. Restore will allow us to add a die of value 2. And it's the familiar die, which is even better. We can directly place it. We can use Ancient Tome in order to decrease the purple to a 5. We'll use our class ability to return the Ancient Tome to the hand and play it again to decrease this die into a 4. And then we can use Entrap to flip it into a 3. With this, we have filled all the slots. We gain 2 XP, return all the dice, and take back all the discarded cards. Lady Amelia hears the wisdom of your words and agrees to go home. When you reach her estate, she gives you a few coins for your trouble. Gain 3 gold coins. We can now rest or move to the next location in our path. Let's continue moving to the next location in our path. And we reach location B, Terran's Arena. If there is no XP at this location, there is. Otherwise, collect the XP. If you have the keyword temple, we do not. As you race towards the sound of chaos, the rift above the palace splits further, revealing the swirling sky of another world. There's no telling what might happen if it grows wider. We must finish our business here and hurry to the palace, says Alec. King Taran will need our help. At the arena, you are met with a harrowing sight. Today's combatants have escaped through a massive hole and are creating havoc in the streets. A humongous ogre overturns a fruit cart and stamps on its vendor. A gang of goblins throws chunks of rubble at everyone inside. Zalik draws his sword and charges at the ogre, leaving you to decide what to do. Zalik is a skilled fighter, but it is unlikely that he can take down the ogre alone. If the goblins are left unattended, though, they will certainly harm many residents of Sobek with their rubble. Record the keyword arena. We can now confront the goblins or confront the ogre. Let's attack the goblins. You leave the ogre to Zalik and approach the goblin gang. One of them throws chunks of debris while shouting taunts at you. Underneath the rubble, you can make out the arm of their fallen friend. It seems the others are working to free him. You can either attack the goblin, talk the goblins into leaving, help them dig out their friend. Let's attack the goblins. You draw your weapons and face the goblins, who lift chunks of rubble over their heads to throw at you. We have a combat with the goblins, and the modifier is gang off. The modifier states that during the first round of combat, the combat dice limit is reduced by 1, in our case, to 4. Let's add 1 stamina for a white and 1 stamina for a green, for a red. And draw the other 2 randomly. And let's see what we have. Nothing useful. Let's start with trying to reroll the green, the white, and the red. Let's start with the red, maybe. 2 is okay. And for the last one, a 5. Playing the armor only counts as 1 card played. For the second card, let's add the familiar die. And roll it into a 4. We can use the ancient tome to turn it into a 5 and cover the red die slot. Now we only need a 6. Let's use stone skin for the 4th card play to add 2 green dice. And we have a 6. With this, we have covered all the die slots. We gain 2 XP. Return all the discarded cards back to the hand. And complete the fight. You make short work of the goblins and check to your satisfaction that their friend beneath the rubble is dead. Then you turn your attention to Zalik and the ogre. You find Zalik wounded but standing while the ogre smashes his way towards the palace. You must rally the palace guard, says Zalik. He sprints off, hoping to beat the ogre to the gate. Amongst the rubble, something shining catches your eye. You find the shard of reflective glass embedded in a head of cabbage. You remove the shard and decide to take it with you. Reveal Discovery Card 84, which is a shard of reflective glass. Record the keyword rubble. Dragul's favor goes down by 1. We can now use an item rest or move to another location. Let's use the reflective shard, the shard of reflective glass. Gazing through the shard of reflective glass, the world looks more colorful somehow, more alive. You are struck by an overwhelming feeling that there is more to reality than you yet know. Let's also use the pry iron. It will take us 1 stamina. You find a crate and pry it open. There are a few apples inside. They are crisp and sweet. Each player return 3 stamina from your fatigue box to the supply. We can now use another item, rest, or move to another location. I don't think there's anything for us. Oh, I was wrong. we can check our backstory. The backstory is for Brawler. A nearby priest in the robes of Hakato, god of justice, cheers when a rampaging owlbear leaps from the arena's shattered upper levels and tears into a group of merchants fleeing across the square into the distance. The priest shouts to the merchants, "Remember yesterday when you bet which beast would spill more blood? You like your winner now?" He chuckles and turns to you, offering you a bite from his bowl of a fried saltweed, saying, "I know scars like yours. You look like someone's made gold from your blood during a fight or two. Let's watch this one. It's about time the real monsters get what they deserve. We can save the merchants or cheer on the monster. Let's save the merchants." Brawler player, move your alignment marker to the left. It's already as much as it can go. The owlbear is big, but it still goes down like an incel wrestler when you wrench up its rear hunch with a sailor's young. The beast rears around faster than you expect, but you dodge to the side before it can dig in with its big fangs. You grab the cobblestone and smash it between the eyes. The creature howls, but you keep bashing until you hear beak and bone break. "Thank you, stranger," grovels one of the merchants. "Thank you greatly for lending your strength in our time of need. Here, this is the blood money I won betting on that horrible beast yesterday. These spoils rightly belong to you now. Record the personal title right." Personal titles are recorded on the backstory and they are not erased at the end of the adventure. We also gain 2 gold. We can use an item, rest, or move to another location. Let's move to another location. Maybe move to the Temple of Ulos. But first, let's stop at A and go through the A location in order to have encounter number 1. From the corner of your eye, you notice movement in an alley. Treading cautiously, you spy a familiar halfling prying open an entrance to the sewers. It is Rose, the blacksmith from Jolef. Her cloak is covered in dust. You notice traces of explosive bluestone powder on her shoes, and you see the starlit door insignia on her ring. It seems Rose had a role to play in the cult's plot against Sobek. Sneak up on her while she is distracted, which is a fight. Approach Rose to talk. Allow her to escape. Well, since we are going for King's favor and the Starlit Door is our enemy, let's sneak up on her while she is distracted. Rose is distracted by her efforts to uncover the sewer entrance. She does not notice your approach. You are upon her before she knows what is happening and she scrambles to defend herself. We're not playing in legendary mode, otherwise we add a surprised modifier card to the combat and we will be fighting Rose. The surprise modifier tells us that during this skill check or the first round of this combat, all stamina spent to add dice to the dice pool is returned to the supply instead. Considering that, let's add 1 blue, 1 red, and a black. And why not? Let's add a green as well. And the last one will be drawn randomly. Let's roll them and see what we got. We have a 6, which is perfect. We can use the longbow to increase the green die by 2 and add it here. Let's try to re-roll the red die by playing the chainmail armors into a 5. Is that what we want? No. No. and it's a 4. Which is better because for the third card, we can play Steadfast to turn it into a white. We can use the Ancient Tome to increase the purple to a 3, and then use a bonus play element in order to turn it to any color, and we will turn it to a white. With this, we end the first round of combat. We move the round marker and take 3 damage plus 1 from the uncovered die slot. For the last round, we only need a black die, but we have no dexterity left in order to spend. I will draw the dice randomly and see what we get. Let's use the leather greaves to re-roll the black die. And we have a 3. And we can use Stumble to turn it into a 4 and cover the last die slot. With this, we have completed the fight. We return the dice. We get 1 gold and 2 XP. Defeated Rose races off through the streets of Sobek, leaving behind several explosive vials. It seems Terran's arena was not her only target. Reveal title card 31. Saboteur's Pursuit. We reduce our Starlit Door's favor by 1. We can rest or move to another location in our path. Let's rest because we have spent quite a lot of cards. The discarded cards should have come back to our hand after the fight. We place a stamina onto the rest track. Let's use only 1 XP. This gets us a die, which we reroll, and we return 5 stamina. We also flip over our class card, return the spent cards, return the bonus play token, and fill the attribute rows. With the rest completed, we can continue to the Temple of Ulos. If there's no XP at this location, there is. Otherwise, collect XP from this location. If you have cured arena, we do. Built long ago before the strife between Nalos and the Dragul, the white columns and domed ceilings of this temple enclose a massive sanctuary populated with statues of all the many gods of every race in Ulos. An elderly Kaika priestess speaks from the darkness behind you. I'm afraid your Starlit Door friends have already come and gone, and they took the Eye of Ulos with them. The priestess points to an open Durgulium door in the temple floor. Traces of blue energy linger in the air above. A cold breeze blows through them. With the Eye of Ulos, they can open a rift to Iktal, Plane of Frost. Meanwhile, King Taran has somehow managed to open a rift to Afril over his own palace. May the gods save us. The priestess wanders off, mumbling to herself. Beyond the columns of the temple, you see gigantic bats circling in and out of the rift above Sobek Palace. Alone in the temple, you find a focus lens at the base of Kint, satyr god of wine. It seems someone was studying this idol closely. Reveal Discovery card 76, which is a focusing lens. We can now use an item, rest, or move to another location. Let's try to use the shard of reflective glass. You hold the shard of reflective glass carefully. In the reflection, each statue seems to move subtly, their eyes and facial expressions adjusting ever so slightly as you turn your attention to them one by one. Kind, the satyr god of wine, looks down on you and smiles. At the base of his statue there is a golden chest, but when you look without the mirror, the chest is not there. Let's try to use the shard of glass with the focusing lens. Maybe it can help us with this chest. We need to pay 1 stamina for the focusing lens. With the reflective shard, you are able to direct light through the focusing lens. It creates interesting effects when aimed at the jewel that ornament the statues of the gods. Aiming at the ruby in the chest of Oktok, or god of stone, you send a spray of red beams across the whole temple. Let's use the pry iron. It also costs 1 stamina. It occurs to you that you could try to pry the gems from the statue. No one in Sobek would care too much if you stole from one of the Dragul gods. The idol of El Rock Ek Kazat, lord of cobalt fertility, has some particularly nice emeralds, but perhaps the gods themselves would be displeased. We can now take the emeralds or leave an offering for the idol. Let's take the emeralds since they are Dragul. You pop the emeralds from the statue of El Rock El Kazat and stow them away. Now you can shake the feeling that all the statues in the hall are staring at you, judging you silently. Gain 3 gold. We decrease the Dragul favor. We can use another item, rest, or move to another location. I think the only combination that we haven't used is the pry iron and the reflective shard of glass. So let's pay 1 stamina. Looking through the reflective glass, the statues seem alive. You back up to the satyr idol Godkind, god of wine, who smiles at you and points to a golden chest at his feet. You wet your pry iron into the chest and pop it open. A shower of silvery light pours forth and fills your heart with joy and confidence. Reveal rare card 35, which is Embolden. It allows us to add 2 stamina to one of your attribute rows from the supply, ignoring the usual limit. We can now use another item, rest, or move to another location. Well, there's nothing for us to do here. Let's move to another location. We will need to go to D. Let's go through this way and have encounter number 3. If you have either of the titles, Crete's Savior or Crete's Hunger. I think we should have Crete's Savior. Yes, we do. In an alleyway, you see a wrathborn noble stumbling about in colorful tights and scarves. When they stabilize themselves against a wall, you recognize Creed, whose countenance has transformed since you saw them last. In fact, they do not seem well at all. If you have the title Creed's Savior, we do, you approach Creed and find they stink of alcohol. Apparently, stone drunk Creed is talking to a pig tied to a post. You notice the animal has a black spot in the shape of a swan. When you draw near, Creed turns their attention to you. After a moment, a look of recognition crosses Creed's face and they roll their eyes in disgust. Look big, shouts Creed, poking you in the chest. These ones, the king's guard, yuck. The pig looks at you with curiosity. Or is it recognition? Suggest to the Creed to go home where it is safe, a check of intelligence and strength, and tell the Creed they are needed at the palace. Let's suggest that Creed go home where it is safe. It's a strength and intelligence skill check. You tell Creed that they are needed to go home, explaining that the streets are unsafe. Creed is entirely unimpressed by your statement and raises their fists against you, challenging you to make them leave. Our king's favor is not 2 or higher, so we will only be doing a resistance 2 check. The dice limit is again 6. Let's spend 1 intelligence and 1 strength in order to add a red and a blue die. And draw the remaining 4 randomly. And let's see what we can do. We can increase the blue by 1 and add it. We can use the Jade Gauntlet to turn any color into a 6. We can turn the purple into any color and make it a black. We can turn the red into any color and make it a purple. We have already played the 4 cards, but we have steadfast for a bonus play token to turn any color into a red, and we turn the 3 into a red. With this, we have completed the challenge. We get 2 experience. We take back the discarded cards. And we continue on with the successful resolution of the skill check. Knocking the drunken noble off balance is no real challenge for you, and Crete falls with a good-humored laugh. Very well, they say. I will wander back home again. There's another bottle hiding in the basement somewhere, I suppose. When Crete is gone, you are alone with the pig, who looks up at you with warm, friendly eyes. Somehow you get a sense that she doesn't belong here, tied to this post. And yet, it might be dangerous to release her, given the current state of the sawback. We can untie the pig and let her go, or we can pat her on the head and leave her where she is. Let's untie the pig. You untie the pig and she looks at you with gratitude and runs off into the streets. There is something odd, almost human, about the look in her eyes. Pig thief, someone yells at you from a window above. You flee, hoping the pig makes her way out of these chaotic streets and finds happier home somewhere else. We can rest or continue moving to the next location. Let's move to the next location, which is location D, the palace gates. If there is no XP at this location, there is. Otherwise, we collect the XP from this location. If you have keyword rubble, we do. At the palace gatehouse, the ogre does battle with the palace guard. He smashes his fists against the ground, shaking the earth around you. On top of the palace wall and well above the fray, several nobles have gathered to watch the battle as if it were a bit of sport. The arena has come to us today, you hear one of them comment, and the other nobles chuckle. Safely behind the palace walls, they have never known danger, not even during the worst years of the Dragoon invasion. Over their heads, the rift is steadily widening and creeping lower in the sky. Meanwhile, both the palace guard and the ogre are fighting for their lives below. Join the palace guard and fight the ogre, or help the ogre and do battle with the palace guard. Well, we are King's favor after all, so let's join the palace guard and fight with the ogre. You join with the guards in attacking the ogre, who lets a tremendous roar and brings his fists down upon you. We increase our King's favor by 1, finally. And we have a combat with a gigantic cornered ogre. Corner tells us that the start of this skill check or each round of this combat add a random die to the dice pool. This does not count against the dice limit. This means that in each round we will have 6 dice instead of the usual 5. And gigantic just adds more die places. Considering that we need to fill up so many dice, let's just draw them randomly. We have 5 plus 1 for corner for a total of 6 dice. And let's roll them and see what we have. We have the 1, but I would like it to be a 5 because it will do us 5 damage. The best ones that we could cover are the 2 6s and the 5. They do the most damage in each round. For this, the first card can be famous and allows us to turn the purple into a black, and we can place it here. We can use steadfast to turn any color into a red or a white, and we turn the 4 into a white. Now we can place the 1. We'd like a 6. We have played 2 cards. Let's use Relentless to turn the red into any color, and we turn it into a black. Oh, we now have 1 more card played this turn. And I think we can use the longsword to increase a green die by 1 and make it into a 6. We have no more card plays. Don't think there's much that I can do with only one bonus play token. So let's just end the turn. We return the dice to the die back. We move the round to a marker. We take 4 damage, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 and 3 more. We're at 16 damage, up to a total of 23. We can now go on to the next round. Let's spend 1 dexterity to get a black die. And I think that will be all of it. We have cornered. The dice limit is 6. Let's draw 5 dice randomly. And roll them. Well, we started good. A 5 goes here. Another 5 goes here. And we only need a 6. And for this we have the longbow, which allows us to increase it by 2. With this, we have filled all the dice slots. We have completed the combat. We return the dice to the dice pack. We get 4 XP and 2 gold. We also return the discarded cards. And we continue on with the story. The threat to the palace is over. You have slain the last of the Dragul who escaped from the arena, and Sobek can return to peace. You hear polite applause from the nobles on the battlements above, and the palace guard gives you their sincere thanks. Just as they are standing aside to let you pass into the palace, a wave of dizziness sweeps over you. The rift in the sky above opens wide and races downwards, splitting into the palace itself. The nobles scream and run wildly. Strange translucent grey figures emerge from the rift and walk onto the palace grounds. Without hesitation, the guard abandon their gates and rush inward to arrest these strange visitors. Come with us, they call to you, for King, for Nalos. If you have the keyword shame, we do not. If you have the keyword arena, we do. With reality unwinding behind him, Zalik steps through the palace gate and calls you towards him. Look around, he tells you. Our world is threatened by a danger it has not seen in many thousands of years. We must all join together. Zalik is cut short when a fell creature swoops out from the otherworldly rift and snatches him up by the shoulders. With a piercing cry, it flaps its leathery wings and carries your commander through the rift and into the red sky of another dimension. You watch him disappear into the strange and distant world. Reveal title card 37, which is Zalek's Witness. If your entire party is exhausted, we are not, though we are not far behind, we can use an item rest or move to another location. Let's rest. I think it's due. As before, we place 1 stamina in the rest track. We choose how many XP to spend. Let's spend 3. This gives us 3 dice to roll. And we return 12 stamina back to the box. We also fill the attribute rows and return the spent cards and the bonus play token. We can now continue on. Let's go back to the barracks and maybe buy one of these familiars, since the cost is reduced by 2 now. And doing so, we will have encounter number 4. If you have any of the titles, Hated by Trolls, Troll Foe, or Trolls Ally. I think we inadvertently had Trolls Ally. Yes. Beyond the corner of a rubble-strewn street, you hear a tremendous crash. When you peek around the building, you see a gigantic mass of green skin and flying debris. If you have title Trolls Foe, I think we only have Troll's ally. Here are Urka and Songak, two giant trolls you recognize from Jole, tearing apart the street around them, doing as much damage as they can. You cry out in surprise and they turn their attention to you. If you have title Heated by the Trolls. The trolls seem delighted to see you and stop their destruction to approach you with open arms. Urka reaches into a large leather sack and pulls out some of the loot you've gathered. She hands you some coin and the trolls linger for a moment. Songak points to Grintaker, the sword they gave you in the shadowy cave near Jolev. She smiles, trusting that you've put their weapon to good use since they saw you last. The trolls bid you farewell and return to their destruction of Sopak. With this, we gain 3 gold and rest or continue moving on. Let's continue moving on to the Tyrant's Arena, and I think let's try to use the focusing lens. The arena is relatively quiet now. Workers clear rubble in preparation to mend the massive hole in the arena. We can use an item, which we wanted to do, and let's use the focusing lens by paying 1 XP, 1 stamina. You inspect the rubble with the focusing lens and discover a residue of blue powder. You touch it and the merchant calls out to you. Be careful with that. It came from the device they used to put a hole in the arena. You question the merchant further and learn that a halfling woman with a strange ring planted a satchel near the wall and then ran off before everyone was the wiser. Each player returned 1 stamina from their fatigue box to the supply. Let's continue moving to our original destination, the barracks. Mintrock and Shortap are hard at work feeding and cleaning their beasts. We can buy one of them with a discount of 2 because our king's favor is 2 or higher. Well, we have easy way to manipulate green, so let's buy the jackalope. We spend 4 gold. We take the card into the hand and also add the die to the dice pack. Since we're here, let's use the shard of reflective glass. Looking around Mintrock's shop through the reflective shard, everything takes a special glow. Mintrock and Shortap appear connected to their beasts by silvery threads that emanate from their hearts. Let's move to the palace gate, and I don't think that we have used any of our items there. The palace gates are strewn with the remains of battle. The nobles who stood above the fray are nowhere in sight. Let's start with the shard of reflective glass, since it is free to use. You look through the shard of reflective glass at a rift in the sky where the moons of another world hover. Through the glass you see no rift, but the 2 skies blended. Their moons and yours orbit together in harmony. Let's use the prying iron. Maybe we can find something from the rubble by paying 1 stamina. You poke between the stones of the gatehouse wall, and sure enough you find a loose one. Behind the stone you find a note that some former palace guard left. Off to the invasion, it reads. If I survive this war, I swear I'll give this note to Smirkin and tell him that I love him. The note is signed Hemgah. I don't think that the focusing lens will do us any good here. Let us continue to the next location, the palace gardens. If there's no XP at this location, there is, otherwise collect the XP. The palace gardens, ordinarily a place of beauty and tranquility, now serve as the eye of an otherworldly storm. The rift crackles overhead as it tears downwards into the king's quarters to the east. Screams and calls of alarm come from that direction. By contrast, the great hall to your south remains silent and undisturbed by the rift. No visitors from beyond the rift walk the gardens with you, but it seems something passed through recently. The remains of several plants still hiss and steam, reduced to corroded grey gloop in trails that lead downwards to the king's chamber. On the pedestal in the center of the garden rests a magnificent mirrored chest. Through a round spy hole in its front, you see a colorful glass wand inside. Reflected many times over in the mirror interior of the box, the royal gardener, Mindel, an elderly elf woman, whistles while she tends the garden. Reveal discovery cards 9 and 33 and place 1 XP on each. They are both new locations. Circle and 3 goes here, the Great Hall. And diamonds and 4 will go here. And we also place 1 XP on each of the 2 locations. If your king's favor is 2 or higher, Mindel will trust you with a secret. Let's talk to Mindel. If you have the keyword vine, we don't. You approach Mindel as she trims a low hedge along the inner garden wall. She's surprisingly calm given the events unfolding in the palace around her. In fact, she seems happy to see you. Fear not the doors to the other worlds, she tells you. They are part of what makes us who we are. I would tell King Taran the same, but I don't think he would listen. I hear everything from this garden, you know. Taran wants to use Azima's power to conquer all of Ulos. Even so, it's our job to serve him, trusting that the gods will see us through in the end. Mindel draws her thumb across your forehead and whispers an elvish blessing. I pray you find him and help guide him to wisdom, for Nalos, for Ulos, and for all the many spokes of Azima's will. Choose a player, increase your wisdom attribute score by 1. It's only me, so let's increase the wisdom by 1. Which gets us to 3 wisdom. We also record the keyword vine. We can use an item rest or move to another location. Let's try to use the Shard of Reflective Glass here, since we are here. With the Shard of Reflective Glass, you are able to catch a beam of light from a gap in the foliage above and cast it across the mirrored chest. But the light is too diffused to have an effect. Maybe we can focus it using the focusing lens. We need to pay 1 stamina. With the reflective shard, you are able to send light into the focusing lens and direct its beam through the mirrored chest's spy hole. Within the chest, the beam bounces among the mirrored faces, passing through the wand and its many reflections. An incredible glow emanates from the keyhole, and the lid suddenly pops open, revealing a glass wand to the light of day. It is lovely to look at. A small plaque inside the box reads, Wand of Truth. Each player return 1 stamina from their fatigue box to the supply. We reveal Discovery Card 67, which is a Wand of Truth. And we now have to move to another location. Let's move to the barracks and see if we can do something with this Wand of Truth. We need to pay 1 XP. Oh, we need to pay 1 stamina. You wave the Wand of Truth over Mintok and he suddenly looks perplexed. You know what? He says, I never wanted to be a gamekeeper. This was all my father's idea. He seems very upset. Maybe we can focus it by using the Wand of Truth and the focusing lens. This would require us to use 2 stamina. You place the focusing lens in the curled notch of the Wand of Truth. Everything suddenly looks more crisp and clear. You see Minthok's thoughts materialize. He seems to be considering his career choices. After a moment, Minthok decides he needs a replacement so that he can explore other options in life. It seems he thinks you would make a good gamekeeper as anybody. He teaches you the skills of his trade. Record the keyword trained. Find and trap in the skill deck and add it to one player's hands. If the card is not available, reveal 1 random skill card and add it instead. We already have entrap. Yes, we already have entrap, which means we will need a random skill. And this skill will be examine, which allows us to turn a 1 into either 3 or a 5. Let's move on to location G, the Great Hall. If you have the keyword lever, we do not. If there's no XP at this location, there is, otherwise collect the XP. It is eerily quiet in King Taran's Great Hall. In contrast with the chaos of colliding worlds outside, this hall is silent as a tomb. The heads of many Dragul generals and warriors are on display. These are King Taran's many trophies collected at each victory for Nalos during the long and bloody war. Between the remains of a bugbear and a dragon, a recessed alcove has been roughly boarded up, and the words "Do not remove by order of Taran" have been sloppily painted in red. A Drugullium seal decorated with ancient symbol graces the center of the hall's floor. If you have the titles Troll's Ally or Hated by the Trolls, I think we have established that we have Troll's Ally. Above the door at the other end of the hall hangs an empty plaque engraved with the words Troll of Jolaf. If you have the keyword Greyfolk, we do not. The silence of the hall is broken by a tremendous boom and the screams of palace servants running through the gardens. Someone help! Comes the cry of a chambermaid. The king is in danger. Use an item rest or move to another location. Let's use the shard of refractive glass. You look through the shard at the head of a Gorgon. She was blinded in this world by King's Guard soldiers. In the reflection, she wears a blindfold. The snakes on her head writhe in your mirror, and her face contorts in a silent scream. Maybe we can fight it with the pry iron as well as the shard of reflective glass. The Gorgon head is blindfolded in the mirror. You reach out with your pry iron and pull the blindfold from her face. Her eyes glow red and look deeply into yours. You are momentarily transfixed. Her gaze is unnerving, but you are protected by the glass. Gain 1 XP. Let's try to use the pry iron on itself. You set the pry iron against the wooden planks covering the alcove and pull them away. In the space behind them, you discover an ancient Drugurium lever. Pulling the handle, you hear a grinding sound like turning metal gears beneath your feet. Record the keyword lever. Reveal discovery card 11 and place an XP on it. A star and 3 will be here in the Chamber of Illusions. We can use another item, rest, or move to another location. And let's not forget the XP. Let's move to the Chamber of Illusions. If you have the keyword vanished, we do not. If there's no XP, there is, otherwise collect the XP. You descend the spiral staircase beneath the seal in the great hall and find yourself in a long chamber with fully mirrored walls, floors, and ceilings. At the far end of this chamber, a Drugullium chest rests upon a pedestal. No matter which direction you look, you see an infinite repetition of your own doubles. They too thread uneasily through the hall towards the Drugullium chest. Suddenly, you find your way blocked by knights in sparkling armor who seem to appear from nowhere. Push, pull, strike, or struggle, you find you cannot make contact with these knights, but they force you back to the stairs. Once your feet are off the mirrored floor, they march back to some unseen alcove in the depths of the hall. As the knights return to their posts, you notice that they make no reflection in the mirrors that surround you. Maybe the focusing lens? Or let's start with the shard of refractive glass since it's free. The sparkling knights cast no reflection in your shard, but you see yourself reflected back at you through the chamber's many mirrors. Let's use the focusing lens. Looking through your focusing lens, you see a distorted image of the knights. They are no less menacing or impassible. Maybe using the Wand of Truth? You wave the Wand of Truth around in the air and the knights vanish completely, clearing your way to the treasure at the end of the mirrored hall. Each player return 1 stamina from your fatigue box to the supply and continue to the next entry. You open the Drugullium box, but the earth does not shake. No energy crackles over your head. There is a circular shape in the dust at the bottom of the box, where a jar once sat. Near this circle sits a lovely but not otherworldly brooch. Though this bit of jewelry is not from another plane, it still casts an attractive spell. You pin it to your clothes and immediately feel newly alive and pretty, as if the brooch were lending its charm to you. Reveal rare card 42, which is vibrant, allows us to add a die of your class color to the dice pool. In our case, a red die. Record the keyword vanished. We can now rest or move to another location. Let's do a short rest. As before, we add a stamina to the rest track. Let's spend 2 XP and get 2 dice and roll them. 6 with 1, 7, 5, 6, 7. And we move on to the next location, Darren's chamber. If there's no XP at this location, there is. We collect the XP. The rift that split both sky and palace divides King Darren's private chambers in two. On one side, members of the palace guard surround their halfling king, who stands on his bed with a pack on his back and no crown on his head, as if prepared for a journey. He holds a jar of grey matter in one hand and a Dorgulium tuning fork in the other. Across the room, translucent great figures walk across a purple stone archway from another world in the king's chamber, while gigantic brown bats circle the air behind him. The grey figure touches everything within reach, dissolving objects as if pouring acid from their fingertips. As each object melts away, visions flicker through the bodies of the strange invaders. One of them dissolves a lamp, and its body is briefly filled with a vision of Terran frantically writing letters by the lamp's light. Another creature dissolves a pillow, and its chest lights up with a vision of Queen Amalia, Terran's late wife, lying awake at night. The fingers approach the palace guard and reach out towards them. Record the keyword Greyfolk. We can either stand back and wait to see what happens, a dexterity and charisma check, which we're neither good at, or join the palace guard in the defense of your king. Let's join the palace guard in the defense of the king. You step into battle against these strange visitors. We have again a special combat where we will need to check the resolution after the first round of combat. The combat is against Greyfolk. Here are the Greyfolk. At each round, we will lose stamina from the stamina track instead of damage or losing XP or gold. We need black and white, all of which we're not good at. Let's take 1 black and 2 white. And draw the remaining 2 at random. Well, we already have a 3, which we can place here. And now let's try to manipulate the dice. We can use Steadfast to turn any color into a green, into a red or white, and let's turn this blue into a white. We can use Entrap to flip the 4 into a 3 and place it in its location. We can also turn the 2 into any color, and let's turn it into a black. We have played 3 cards. We have 1 more card to play. We will need to turn the white into a blue somehow. We can do so by playing Ambitious, which allows us to turn the 6 into any color. Victory at the end of the first round, you drive the invaders back. And we move to the next entry. You gain the upper hand against the strange creatures, but the palace guard melt away one by one beside you. While their memories flicker through the translucent flesh of your opponents, the Greyfolk begin to pull together. A larger, unified monstrosity now presses forward with a dozen corrosive arms stretching out to encircle you. Your nerve begins to falter. Find Steadfast in the trade deck and add it to one player's hand. If the card is not available, reveal one at random. I think we already had Steadfast, but yes, we already do. So let's add a random trait card. Which is weak. Decrease the party's combat dice limit by 1. Add a 4. Return all dice with value 3 from the Greyfolk enemy card to the bag. We're not playing in legendary mode. Alright, we need to remove the 3s. Place the round marker on the second space of the round track and continue combat. We place the round marker here, we lose 1 stamina, let's lose it from the red. And continue on. We now only have 4 dice in each combat round, and none of them that can help us. Let's just draw them randomly. And roll them. We can turn a purple into any color. Let's turn it into a black and place it here. Let's first add a die of our class color to the dice pool, which is red. And we roll it into a 5. Now let's begin to try to re-roll the white and the red. Maybe we have something good. A 4, which is okay. With this, I think we have played 3 cards. Yes, this is our third card play. Into a 2. It's not good. Let's play 1 more. And we're back to 5. We can use the Vampire Skull as the 4th card play to turn the white upside down into a 3. You will just need a 3 black or white. I don't think there's much that we can do with only 2 card plays. Yeah, there's not much we can do. Let's move on to the next round. We take 2 damage. And we also need to lose 2 stamina from our tracks. Let's lose 1 from here and 1 from here. We return the dice to the dice bag. And this is the last round. Let's add 1 green and 1 red. Maybe there's something we can do with those. And the other 2 randomly. And roll the dice. We have a 3 red. And we can play Relentless to turn red into any color and finish this combat. You drive back the strange invaders while the palace guard melt around you. To your surprise, King Taran leaps through the rift, sprints across the archway of purple stone deep into the strange world beyond. Farewell, he calls to you, and don't worry, I'll find my way home. The Greyfolk follow him, and the rift seals upwards as if someone were sewing it close from floor to ceiling, leaving you alone in the king's chamber. In the hallway, a terrified chambermaid looks in and sees you standing, weapons drawn, over the bones of the palace guard. Her eyes grow wide, and she runs away without a word. Your quest is complete. From now on, when a choice indicator gives you the opportunity to move to another location, you may instead go through the end. Which means that we have completed the combat. We now gain the 4 XP. and return all the cards back to our hand. We can leave this place, but let's try to use some of the items that we have in the last location. Let's start with the Shard of Reflective Glass. With the Shard of Reflective Glass, you are able to see the bodies of the fallen palace guard in a new light. Their spirits rise intact from the pool of their remains. You hope they find a place in the next life that they could not find in this one. Maybe the iron by paying one stamina. You set your iron to King Taran's writing desk and manage to dismantle it easily. You find a few gold inside. Gain 2 gold. Let's try to use the focusing lens, and I think we will be done after that one. With the focusing lens in hand, you carefully inspect the remains of the palace guard. Nothing more than their bones remain from the attack, and even those are beginning to dissolve into a puddle of muck. It will soon be impossible to distinguish one fallen guard from another. Their families will have nothing to bury. Maybe if we use it with the shard of reflective glass, we need to pay another stamina. You direct the light through the lens with your reflective shard and focus the beam on the grey goop on the king's floor. When you pull the focus tight enough, the goop sizzles and steams. The smell is most unpleasant, but makes you feel more intellectual somehow. Each player increases your intelligence attribute score by 1. I don't think there's anything else to do, so let's just move to the end. Before you know what is happening, you are surrounded by palace guards, all of whom point their spears at you and insist that you lay down your arms. You comply and see the chambermaid from the palace standing with her cap. Behind them, you see the rift still slowly creeping upwards as it seals itself back into the sky. That's the killer, she says, pointing at you. She explains that she saw you, weapons drawn, standing over the remains of the palace guards who died in King Taran's private chambers. You protest and attempt to explain the true circumstances of King Taran's disappearance, but your pleas fall on deaf ears. The king is indeed gone, and now you are to blame. A guard shackles you and escorts you to a prison wagon. Once you're locked inside, the cart begins its slow journey to Kulbak prison. If you have the keyword defined, erase it and reveal title card 36. We do not. Now we will need to check our title cards. We have, I think, only these two, Zalik's Witness and Saboteur's Pursuit, that we have gotten in this adventure. You are carted out of Sobek. The rift slowly closes in the sky above you. Your king and your commander are both on the other side. You can't help but wonder what challenges they will face and whether they might survive. If you want to prove your innocence, you will need to find a way to enter the other world and bring King Taran home. We have Starlit Devil, yes. You suspect the Starlit Door holds the secret to those rifts. You have killed some of their members, but their army marches on. All over Nalos, members of Starlit Door conspire to unbind the spokes of cosmic order and unleash chaos on the plains. The smoke has cleared from the sky, save for a thin wisp that rises from the still smoldering rubble of Taran's arena. You had the saboteur in your hands, but she snuck away. What would drive a successful blacksmith to give up her profession and engage in acts of terror like this? On the bumpy road between Sobek, your driver is stopped by a messenger who hands her a note. After reading it over, she passes to you. It's from the High Council, she says. They've had your trial already and you've been sentenced to death. You'll be held in Kulbak prison for 2 nights, then you'll be hanged. On your arrival at Kulbak, a dozen construct guards march you into a multi-floor cell block packed with struggle prisoners. Gnolls, kobolds, and insectoids lean over railings to watch as the guard takes your belongings and put you in an itchy gray uniform. You receive insults and threats from the tiers above. Kulbak prison is not a friendly place to a member of the King's Guard. Through a barred window, you see a fresh rope thrown over the old gallows. You'll need to find a way out of Coolback to avoid that grim fate. We have now finished the adventure, which means we can go to the market and spend our XP. We have the 5 decks for scroll, traits, armor, weapons, and skills. I have already shuffled them. Let's reveal the top one. We have Levitate, Cruel, Ring of Charity, Blessed Mace, and Charm. For discounts, Cruel will give us 2 discounts if we are an orc but we are human. And for Charm, we would get 1 discount because we have 1 charisma. And I don't think the Ring of Charity does anything in a single player game because it says to move a card from your discarded or spent space to another player's hand. Considering this, let's just draw the next one. And we have the leather boots, for which we already have another leather armor set. We have 5, 10, 12 gold to spend. Let's take the Blessed Mace because we like weapons, and the leather boots because we already have 1 item. We have 3 gold, which we will save for the next turn. We have completed adventure 4. And now to upgrade ourselves, we have 5, 10, 15, 19. Well, we lost 1 combat dice limit. We might as well increase it again. It will cost 9. So 5, 9. To increase it again, it will cost 10. We haven't reached the bonus play limit. We still always had some, so I don't think we should spend it there. We can spend 2 to increase our HP by 2 to 25. From now on, every time we want to increase our XP, we'll need to pay 2 XP for each health point. And let's spend 6 to get 2 attributes. The score limit is still 4. Let's put 1 in charisma and 1 in dexterity to have more options to draw those dice. And with this, adventure 4 in the Realm of Ulos is completed. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.